So a year ago to the month, we did our first competition.
3, 2, 1.
We're gonna do it again.
I'm super pumped to give this another try and to beat Mark. Super windy, wet conditions. I'm really concerned that's gonna affect the fire starting.
I think both Jaron and I will do better, but like I said then, he got lucky, and if we did it again, I was gonna kick his butt.
Last year, I won, and Mark said it was all luck. This year, I'm gonna prove to him that it is the skill.
I guarantee I'll be faster, and I guarantee I'm gonna win.
Hey Blade HQ Nation, Jaron and Mark here, and it's competition time.
That's right, a year ago we did our very first competition, and today we decided to revisit it to see just how far along we've come.
And since we've each won 4 events over the last year, this will be the perfect tiebreaker.
Well, let's take a quick look at some of those past competitions and the overall results. Now for the rules. There are 4 stages, and each stage must be completed before moving on to the next one. Overall fastest time wins.
Stage 1 is the log chop, where you have to cut a 5-inch log in half and then move on to stage 2, where you have to strip a stake of all of its branches, sharpen one end, and stake it into the ground.
Then stage 3, you have to split 10 pieces of kindling. Then lastly, the final stage, stage 4, fire starting.
Last year we had to start 2 fires. This year, we're only going to do 1 due to windy conditions.
Also, to make sure that neither one of us has an unfair advantage, we're not going to randomly select our gear. We've actually chosen and will both use this Wetterling's Hunter's Hatchet and an Exotac Nano Striker.
Now, we've already predetermined who's going first, Mark. That means I have first pick of wood. Let's get out there and see who wins.
Let's do it.
Three, two, one.
So 3, 2, 1, you start the clock and your mind goes blank. Beforehand you're thinking about all these strategies, but as soon as you start the clock and you're going, you forget everything. So stage 1, I ran up to the log. This year the log was thicker and it seemed like it was gonna be a little bit harder wood. But anyways, I had the top portion. I put that up on the rock to give myself a little height. And because the hatchet that we're using this year is a 16-inch rather than the shorter 12-inch that we were using last year, I tried to use that to my advantage. I had both hands on it to strike down. This hatchet, that Wetterling's hatchet, had so much more weight in the head than last year. I think I had the Condor Scout. It was a very lightweight axe. I had to use a lot of arm and shoulder strength. But this year with the longer handle, I was able to get a lot of leverage, and it just bit right into the wood. Started going in at an angle, chopping that down, and then cutting it back against the grain. After a while though, the log kept rolling or sliding off the rock, and that became a little bit of a problem. So I used my foot as a wedge, and I was able to get a few chops in, but it just wasn't working.
3, 2, 1, go. You forget everything. Like, I had strategies for each stage, and as soon as I hit that button, it was all gone. The adrenaline takes over and you just keep going. I started out using 1 hand on the axe, then I went to 2, got a little more control, was able to get a little more leverage and get into that wood much faster. Rotated a little bit more, but the way that log has a curve in it, it wouldn't stand, so I could chop into that back side.
Cut this side down some, but I can't get it to stay. That. I had cut around, but because the axe kept slipping off, I just decided to leave it where it was and work through the wedge that I had chopped in. It wasn't too difficult. It went by relatively fast, and then I felt the wood start to give, so I knew I could break it with my foot. In fact, I hardly had to use any force, Just stepped on it, nice and easy, split it right in half.
That 16-inch handle is definitely one that you want to be using for tasks like this. The wood this year was definitely tougher than last year's. I do feel like with the experience I've had the last year, did that task a little better. I tried jumping on it at one point to see if I could get into it, but I just hadn't gotten far enough in yet. Hacked a little bit more, chopped some more, then I jumped on it, broke it right in half. Then it went on to stage 2.
So stage 2, last year I didn't have any problem with it. This year I had a little bit of a problem with it. I started out and I was able to just use my hand, choke up on the handle closer to the head and use it more like a knife. There's nice weight in the head of that axe and it just went through pretty easy. Some of the bottom ones I decided to stick up on the stump and chop downwards with some of the thicker branches. All in all, I went through pretty easy.
That's not real sturdy.
Stage 2, my arms were on fire. I could really feel the blood in my arms, the muscles were tensing up, but I had to keep going. So I grabbed the stick, put it on the log, and just started chopping right into it. Definitely feeling my arms right now. So going from chopping a big log in half to doing some fine work on that stick, it's a weird experience. Like, you want to throw that weight around. What you need in a task like that is a little more control. You can choke up on that axe and get that control, but going from one type to the other is a little weird.
And my arm is like super tired already.
Where I got hung up on is I sharpened the bottom and then I went to hammer it in, but I didn't have a smooth top to hammer.
I'm thinking about doing this reverse.
Angle. Kept going, kept chopping, turned the stick around, chopped the other branches off. Then I had decided to actually chop a good portion of that stick off so I could get a nice straight stick to pound into the ground. Then I choked up on the axe and started to carve that point out. And got a nice sharp point. Pounded into the ground. Wanted to make sure it was okay. Turned out to be good. Went on to the next stage.
So when I went to hammer in my stake, I had sharpened the thick end and I had the thin end as the part to hammer down, and that didn't work. I had to go back
Arms getting tired.
and flatten the thick end and sharpen the thin end. But all in all, was pretty good. I was starting to feel all the chopping in my forearms, a lot of blood in there, and my hands were getting tired.
I don't like these gloves.
At one point I decided the gloves weren't helping me. I wasn't getting the grip that I wanted.
I know I'm gonna have to take them off in a second to do the fire, so we'll just do it now.
So I hammered, boom, boom, boom. I felt solid. The stake was in the ground. On to stage 3.
Yeah, that's it.
Went into stage 3, started chopping, put one cleave in, and then I decided to baton. And that wood was pretty dry, so I figured batoning it would work rather well.
So this year with stage 3, we have full logs that we had to split. They were nice cured logs. I grabbed one that I thought looked nice, put it up, went to strike it.
Let's see if this will split. Oh, let's go for the smaller one.
And it didn't chop through, and I realized right then that that might not be the best log to use. There was a slightly smaller one. I'm not sure what the wood was, maybe like apricot. I think it was some kind of fruit tree wood. But I grabbed the smaller log, put that on, was able to get through, and really nice. I mean, you could use that shorter than a full axe, but you can strike and cleave a log in half.
So in stage 3, my arms were tightening up. I could barely move them. They were tightening so my fingers couldn't work. So I had to take my gloves off. I massaged my arms a little bit to try and get them to loosen up, but I couldn't get the leverage I want. I couldn't get the force I want on it because my arms just kept tightening up and I couldn't control them. But I knew I was timed. I knew I had to beat Mark, so I just barreled through.
I think we had better axe safety this year. We set up the nice logs, cut them in half rather than holding it and having a chance to hit our fingers or hands. As I whittled down the pieces of kindling, they got smaller and smaller and they kept blowing over because of the wind. So I had to lay them down flat and just chop them flat and in half rather than cutting them through lengthwise.
10, 2, 4, 8, 10. Put some fragments.
I did switch to another log. Didn't chop well at all. The bark around it held it together when I chopped into it the one time. Decided to switch back and continue cutting that. Nope. Counting that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There. Finally got all 10 pieces, moved on to the next stage. 10. So going out of stage 3, I felt like I was a little behind, but I knew I could still catch up. I got the fires in stage 4 done last year without too much problem, so I figured I could make up time in stage 4.
Oh, after completing stage 3, I was feeling really good. My downfall last year was the fire. I was concerned with the wind this year, so we had gathered some nice dry grass. I ground it up, and I put my back to the wind to give myself a little bit of a shelter.
Going into stage 4, super pumped. I got the fires started last year. We had 2 last year, so this time I figured I could start 1 in no time. Crumpled up that dry grass and started to strike it. And after that first time, I was like, okay. Second time, all right. Third time, starting to get frustrated.
So I got into the pit, the wind was really blowing. I put my back to the wind to create a little shelter, cleaned off a little bit of the black coating, and then the technique that I used was to draw the striker up towards my chest rather than using the flint across it. Oh baby. Yes, revenge from last year! 1 strike and I had flame. It was so great. Especially last year when I had flame, I blew it out. I made sure not to make that mistake. I just let it burn. It was nice dry grass, took very easily. Since it was windy, we had a rule that you had to douse the flame with some dirt. So a couple shovelfuls of dirt, stage 4 was done. Ran back to the clock, stopped the clock, and I think it was a winning time. Ooh, that's a good time. That's gonna be tough to beat.
Mark made it look so easy. I've done this before, I know I can. I tried several different techniques. I tried repositioning myself. I got down in the pit. I sat on the rocks. I put the striker in the grass a little bit below me so that there was no more wind. My hands just kept shaking and I couldn't get that in there to get a nice strike. So at one point during stage 4, I decided to go chop the grass to make it nice and even to try and get those tips so that they would all accept that spark and maybe get something going. Didn't work. Mark did it so quickly and I was sitting there for over half an hour trying to get that thing lit. My hair kept getting in my face. The wind kept getting worse. I was getting angry. But then I checked the time on my GoPro and realized how long it had been. Are you serious? You're serious? That's how long it's been?
I don't know.
And I was like, this isn't working for me. So I called it. I'm done. I'm calling it. I'm calling it. Mark is better bushcraftsman than me. Got up, gave props to Mark. He did fantastic this year. But I was done. And no fire. It's wind.
I said it last year, if we did it again, I was gonna kick Jaron's butt. His butt has been thoroughly kicked.
So even though I lost this year, I still feel really accomplished. I got off the couch over the last year, learned a lot of skills, put them into play, and had a good time.
So, like I said a year ago, you got lucky.
Hey, in my defense, even the best athletes have an off day.
Hang on, you're saying you're an elite athlete?
No. All I'm saying is I had an off day.
All right, fair enough. And I'll say, I now know how painful it is to watch somebody struggle as much as I did.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It really is frustrating when you know you can do it. Mm-hmm. Well, anyways, now time for the giveaway. 2 of you out there are going to get a striker, and 1 lucky winner will win this sweet hatchet.
Check the description box for all the official rules on how to enter.
Yeah, and even if you don't win, check out these Wetterling axes. They're fantastic. I don't think you'll regret picking one up.
Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Are you for real?
So just so Jaron knows. Oh. Not luck. Skill.
Boom shakalaka!